Project Arrowhead. Tuesday. What the hell is today's date?
It's the 13th.
13th. That's
13th,
right.
yes.
Wow.
Tuesday the 13th.
It is the 13th. I am your host, Jim Sakowitz, and joining us again, I think his name is Glenn. Glenn Sly.
Yes.
Hey,
yes.
welcome back, Glenn.
Haven't been here in a while.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sure. No, you're not.
No, I gotta say that.
You're not going to get us all sick, are you?
Maybe.
Well, we're going to start with some breaking news.
Oh, boy.
Uh-oh.
We are going to be able to sleep good at night now. And
While you're off the roads?
there is a button here, Glenn.
I'm back.
Glenn's stage could be a short one. All
I am back.
right, I'm trying to find it here.
Look what you did.
For some reason, it's taking forever. Okay. Residents of Connecticut can sleep peacefully at night now. The serial pooper has been caught.
That's the reason why I was out for a couple weeks.
Yeah. Well, no. In East Granby, the police are crediting a motion-activated camera for helping them capture
Wow.
a suspect in cases of feces being found in the middle of a cul-de-sac. A warrant was issued, and Holly Malone, 43, of Simsbury, was taken into custody after an unknown or unrelated traffic stop connected to her vehicle in the video they show. She was charged with breach of peace, creating hazardous conditions, and given a package of Charmin upon being discharged. No, I'm making up the sergeant, the Charmin. But, state police said the incidents, feces and toilet paper were found in the roadway of Kirkstone Drive. Incidents happened November 7th and 16th. A motion-activated camera was installed on December 5th, and it recorded the suspect's vehicle after another arrest. So, yeah, the mad pooper, as they are calling her.
I heard there was a full body cavity search just to make sure it was her.
Well, she's a big girl, so I'm thinking that's it'd be a long body cavity search.
Talk about a crappy start to the show.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, last week we talked about eating horse dung, and now this week we have the mad pooper getting caught.
Well,
What happened with the horse? Oh, yeah, the when the football game got
Celebration in Philadelphia.
the Eagles won.
They were eating horse crap
Yeah.
Wow.
In the middle of the street.
in the middle of the street.
Was that before or after they tipped over that car?
I believe during.
During.
You got to bear with me. I've got a lot of static in my earphones, so it's
Security.
security.
I mean, maintenance.
So what else we call it security? I just went along with it. Jesus.
Maintenance.
Welcome back, Glenn.
Thank you.
Got to give a shout out to Dave, who's recovering after surgery.
Hello, Dave. Hope you're doing better, brother.
Those addictomies can be brutal.
Thought he had a sex change.
And addictomy.
You mean a subtract addictomy?
All kidding aside,
No, we hope you're doing better, Dave.
Dave had knee surgery, and he's up and around, so I guess that's a good sign. I would hope. But Glenn, you just look so evil over there.
Yeah, that's what they tell me.
I don't get it.
That's my demons.
I don't get it. Well, we actually have a guest in studio with us today.
Yes, we do.
He's on camera 3.
He is on camera 3.
But we don't have a camera 3.
Yeah, you do.
We don't have a camera 3.
Just click on camera 3 and hit the transition and tell him to wave hello.
All right, we're going to introduce you to our guest.
This is a whole new thing for Jim, so... Oh, there we go.
No, it's just the noise in the headphones.
Yeah, I think it's the lead in your head. I don't know, or the hollowness.
Is that plate in your head?
Sure.
Well, hello, everyone.
Please welcome
Hello,
Major
Roy.
Roy Bork. Roy Bork.
Roy.
How do you do?
How are you, Roy?
Bork, as in the Swedish chef. Bork, Bork, Bork.
As in Ray Bork, the former Bruin defenseman.
One letter away.
See that? Look at that.
This is the guy that's going to be re-engineering the studio.
And I'm going over his resume here. And now, Roy, you grew up in New England.
I did.
And you served in the Navy.
6 years.
Okay, now
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your
Appreciate
service.
it.
thank you, shipmate. And this is what blows me away. I'm like, wow, I was a corpsman, and I didn't. While you were in the Navy, now correct me if I'm wrong, if this didn't all take place in the Navy, but you were trained in the nuclear power field, subjects including basic electricity and electronics, nuclear and conventional physics and chemistry, electromagnetic theory, electrical generation, and advanced mathematics.
That is correct.
And all of that was in the Navy. That is amazing.
It was a 1-year program.
1-year program.
Yeah, and the program was developed by MIT.
Wow.
That's like a crash course.
It was a crash course.
Fantastic. Where were you stationed?
I was stationed in, New London was or Groton rather, was where the sub was.
Mm-hmm.
I went to boot camp in Great Lakes, basic electricity and electronics in San Diego. Then there was Bainbridge, Maryland, was nuclear power school, and it's in here in Connecticut. Windsor Locks was the prototype where I learned how to run the generators.
Wow.
And Jim, all he learned was how to clean a head.
I was a corpsman, Glenn. I saved lives.
Great career, Jim. Sorry.
I'm sorry. What branch did you serve in, Glenn? And Salvation Army is not a branch of the military.
Were you a seaman?
He was a seaman.
So, when you got out of the Navy, you worked at Norwich Public Utilities for 31 years.
Yep.
And you conducted independent research in scientific and religious studies for over 20 years.
Yes.
Where did you find the time?
Yeah, really.
Well, I worked a rotating shift. There were times I was on mid-watch, and when mid-watch, if you're in the electrical industry, there's 2 speeds, slow and all hell breaks loose. So when it was slow, I would bring a good book in and go over and read. And then when I was at home, I would take some time. I have my own library, so instead of watching football games, I would read books and do some studies.
See, there's where you went wrong, Jim.
Yeah, he's got me beat there. Guilty.
Too much football, Jim.
Yes, Your Honor. So you said you had some mystical experiences, and then that allowed you to integrate scientific concepts with the religious idea.
Yes.
And each one has a different side of the brain function.
Yes, I discovered that the split brain, the brain is divided in 2 hemispheres, and each hemisphere thinks differently. The right hemisphere is on associations, and the left hemisphere is on analytical. And as soon as I learned that, I said, well, everything that we know in the scientific method is all analytical, whereas everything that I learned in religion is all associative. So that's when I split it and said, okay, if I'm going to study religion, I can't analyze it. I have to look at it and what are the associations? What means what? And that's when I realized that religion is based on symbolism. And what's happened is that modern religions lost the meaning of the symbols. So they give you the words, they read the scriptures, but they can't tell you what any of the details mean. So if you start with the Garden of Eden, you have the tree of life. So I said, well, what does that mean? And, well, we don't know. It was just there. And then I said, well, why did the devil take the form of a serpent? And they said, where did that question come from? And I said, well, what was the forbidden fruit? And they said, well, we think it was an apple, but we've kind of ruled that out, so we really don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, whatever happened to the Garden of Eden? And they said, well, we don't know that either. So I said, you have this story, you want to teach it to us, and the bottom line is you can't explain any of the details of the story, so where do we go from here? How do we apply that to our lives? And that's what I had to work out. Of course, it was about that time that they sent me over to see Mother Superior.
She bring out the ruler?
Well, I will admit I was quite surprised because that's what I expected. She sat me down and she said, the questions you're asking can only be answered by God. You need to get alone with God, ask Him the questions, and let Him answer. She says, do you understand? It's like, kind of. But I realized then that I had to figure this out on my own. Mm-hmm. So it was a couple of weeks later that I had a spiritual experience. And in that experience, I realized that everything in nature is reducible to a common denominator. Now, at the time, I didn't know what the common denominator was. But I knew that that was the critical key. If you want to understand God, you got to understand the common denominator. And when I went to nuclear power school, 11 years later, they were talking about atomic physics, atomic structure. They said the atom is made up of 3 particles, protons, neutrons, and electrons. Mm-hmm. And then they said every electron in the universe is the same. Every proton is the same. Every neutron is the same. And these 3 particles make up everything else. And as soon as they said that, my experience from 11 years earlier suddenly had meaning. There it is. That's the common denominator. So I started saying, okay, now we have to look at God as this life force that fills the universe, that makes up these particles, and that's what runs everything else. It is everywhere, it is invisible, but it's not a male deity. So I realized that the male deity corresponded with a male-dominant society. God made man to be like God. Man made God to be like a man. They've got it backwards. We have to go back to we're made in God's image. We have creative ability. That is how we are made in the image of the Creator. And that's what we have to focus on. And it is when we are engaged in creative expression that we feel most fulfilled. And that's where my research all focused on that. How can I bring that to light?
Very nice.
Yes.
Now you also discuss, by the way, you did write a book, The Merging of Two Worlds, The Convergence of Scientific and Religious Thought. You talk about the Mayan calendar, and so let's talk about the Mayan calendar for a little bit and the Mayan civilization.
When I was first introduced to the Mayan calendar, I discovered that it was made up of 9 levels. Each level is 20 times longer than the one that follows. Mm-hmm. But the same amount of change occurs in that time frame. And so as each level unfolds, things are happening faster and faster. They're all superimposed upon each other. And all 9 levels ended on the same day, which is why everybody said, oh my God, what's going on? So I looked at the Mayan calendar. The first level is 16.4 billion years long. It essentially goes back to the approximate time frame of the Big Bang. Now they're saying it's some 13-something billion years ago, but we're still talking a long time frame. Mm-hmm. And as it goes into the next level, this is when you have the development of multicellular organisms. The second level is 820 million years long. As it's approaching its close, you have mammals dominating the land. The third one is 41 million years long. As it's coming to a close, you have primates forming family-oriented groups. The fourth level is 2 million years long, and here you have hominids forming hunter-gatherer groups. The fifth level is 102,000 years long, and you have Homo sapiens forming agricultural groups. The sixth level is started in 3114 BC, and in that level, all the world's nations and all the world's religions came to be formed. The seventh level started in 1755. In that level, as it's coming to a close, you have globalization. The eighth level started in 1999, and in this level, we have the International Space Station and SETI program being federally funded, which is basically looking out. And the ninth level is started in 2012, and it ended on December 21st, 2012, along with all the other levels. And this is where you have conscious co-creation, or the theory of everything. Now, the first level is called the cellular conscious level. The second level is called the mammalian conscious level. The third level is called the familial conscious level. The fourth level is called the tribal conscious level. Fifth level is regional. Sixth level is national. Seventh level is planetary. Eighth level is galactic. And the ninth level is universal.
Wow.
So, when you look at it, number one, the Mayan calendar was adopted over 2,000 years ago. How did they know? How did they know that as we are approaching the end of the Mayan calendar that we would be reaching the level of advancement that we are? Right. Now, if you take rate of change and plot it on a graph over time, it follows an exponential scale. And on the last day, goes right off the scale. We are seeing now, since the end of the Mayan calendar, some major changes. One of them is artificial intelligence, which is no longer carbon-based, and it may be where life is heading, because when we're starting to travel out into space, humans are not adapted to space travel. I mean, there's a lot of planets out there that you can't live on. If they're not Goldilocks planets, ain't going to happen.
Right.
And then you have this. We are now able to leave the planet. In 4.5 billion years of life on this planet, we are now able to leave. Every atom in our bodies was synthesized in a star. So we're made of star stuff. At some point, that star blew up, and then it reformulated into a solar system. The heavy elements form the heavy planets, in which we're on planet Earth. Mm-hmm. And this is where all this stuff, evolves. So we are made out of star stuff. We came from the stars. And I believe we're destined to return to the stars. And so I see the Mayan calendar as the beginning of our journey back. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that Eastern philosophy has said that from the beginning, spirit has been descending into matter. Becoming dense matter and very materialistic. And that's what we see right now. But they said at some point, matter would begin to ascend back into spirit. And that's what I see happening. You start looking at television programs, you're seeing a lot of stuff on which people are turning to spirituality. I see it everywhere. All kinds of books now are on the spirituality. They realize that they need to journey inward. We need to understand how our minds work. Because if we're going to be conscious co-creators, that's the one thing we have to have control of, how we think.
Wow, that's very interesting. That is amazing.
It's just the idea that the Mayans knew this 2,000 years ago.
Far more advanced than I think people give them credit for, and far advanced of us. They knew things back then that we can't even figure out today.
The thing that I find amazing is that the Mayan calendar follows the evolutionary progression as if evolution was following a schedule.
Right. So it's like they knew in advance what was going to happen in this world.
How the fact
kind of written it down there.
The fact that each level is exactly 20 times longer than the one that follows it said that it follows a pattern. It's not like they fit the numbers to it afterwards.
Right. Right.
The Mayan calendar is very definite in its timetable. So they didn't just say, well, let's, plug the numbers into the calendar. The calendar is very definite in when this ended, when this began. And it all fits. And that's the amazing part of it.
And just so everybody realizes out there that the 2012 date was not a prediction for the end of the world, as you had said before.
It is a transformation. Now, when I was a boy, I was 11 years old. My brother was 13 at the time. And he came to me and he says, I have a concern. And he says, I need to talk to somebody about it. He says, I may not see my 15th birthday. He says, well, what makes you think that? He says, well, a few years back, he says, I was crossing the street, and it says it was almost like a voice from heaven. He said, I can't explain that. Said to me, in 4 years, the life you know will be taken. He says, a year to the day, very same spot, I was crossing the road, and all of a sudden, this voice appears from heaven. In 3 years, the life you know will be taken. He says, well, time is running out. So he says, I just want to let you know, something happens, it was meant to be. Well, his first 15th birthday came and went, and he's still around, and I remember sitting at the table, and he's eating his birthday cake, but he's got a strange expression on his face. And later he told me, he says, I couldn't figure out why it was still here. So then he had the premonition again, and he came back to me, and he said, remember that time I told you that I thought my life was going to end? And I said, yeah. And he says, well, I think I might have gotten the dates wrong. He says, the premonition that I have is that my life will end when I'm 19. So he says, if I don't reach my 19th birthday, again, it was meant to be. I said, all right. Well, his 19th birthday came and went, and he's still around, and he's wondering, what is going on? He had the premonition a third time. He says, all right, I got to figure this out. So he goes into meditation, and he says, okay, Lord, tell me what's going on here. And what was revealed to him is that in those days or years that his life was supposed to end, everything changed. The first time he went from being a boy to a young man, all his hormones going nuts. The second time his life was going to end, he had found a job, got his license, had a car, and was completely independent. So he's got no family ties. He's on his own. Right. And the third time his life was going to end was when he had a child. When his wife had a child, so he had his first child. And he said, I realized that I couldn't be concerned what happens to me. I now have to be concerned what happens to my family. Again, all of his values changed.
Right.
And as soon as he said that, I said, these end of the world prophecies may be the same thing. Is that they say the world is going to end? Maybe it's not what they think it is. It's going through a transformational state. And so, again, the end of the Mayan calendar was not the end of the world. Things are changing. Now, the Bible talks about a new heaven and a new earth. That is starting to unfold as we speak. And we're seeing it all over the world.
Yeah, that's true. So, in other words, they're like cycles that ended and a new cycle began, instead of looking at it as like an end of life or whatever. It's just a cycle took over.
A new cycle starts.
Right. So that's exactly like the Mayan calendar.
They were following that. Yes, cycles.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. That is amazing.
You go into Hindu and you go into Buddhist, and the same thing.
Right.
For the serpent, big deal in religion. They showed the serpent as swallowing its tail, which was representative of endless cycles.
Right.
The end of one cycle goes into the next.
Right.
The serpent had a bunch of other symbolic meanings to it, which is why it was a big deal. If you want I can tell you what those are.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
The serpent sheds its skin every year, which was symbolic of regeneration. The serpent has a forked tongue and a double phallus, which was symbolic of duality. The serpent crawls on its belly, which was symbolic of humility. The serpent is very agile, which is symbolic of resourcefulness. And many serpents are useful to the ecology, but some are deadly, which was symbolic of how the forces of nature can be. And so the serpent became an iconic symbol that all religions used. And that's the big deal of the serpent. All religions, the serpent was deity, the power of life over death. And so when you see the serpent represented in religions, it's not the physical serpent. It's all the symbolic meanings of what the serpent meant to them.
So, not in every part that the serpent was a bad creature or a bad deity. It was different, had different meanings to it.
Constantly, because in the Old Testament, in the Garden of Eden, the devil took the form of a serpent.
Right.
And he peered into the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Later on, in the same Old Testament, Moses has the serpent, and that is his symbol. Now, why would he be taking a symbol of the devil if that's what it meant?
Right.
No, it's the symbol of power. Now, here's a good one for symbols. In the Exodus, Moses goes into Pharaoh's court. His brother throws his staff down on the ground, and it turns into a serpent. Pharaoh's magicians all do the same thing. They all throw their staffs down, and they all turn into serpents. And then Pharaoh's magicians' serpents all get swallowed up into Moses' serpent. Now, they say that means that Moses' God was more powerful. But having been trained in the nuclear power field, I saw an analogy that fits. When we studied the forces of nature, originally they were all considered to be independent of each other. But they discovered that electricity and magnetism are intertwined. And as they started approaching what they call the Big Bang, all the forces of nature merge into one. Now, the many serpents of Pharaoh's magicians represented the many forces of nature individually, whereas the Hebrews are now going into what they call monotheism, one force. And what I actually saw is that story is not a literal story. It is a mythological representation of what we call reductionism, or the unified field theory of physics. That's what I saw in that story.
So, excuse me, is that like all the gods that the Egyptians worshipped? Because they obviously worship more than one. Was that kind of like being swallowed up by the one true God?
Then it was the same thing with the Greeks. The Greeks had multiple gods as well.
And they represented the forces of nature individually.
Right.
Now, in the gods of Egypt, they had... I can't remember the names of them right off the top of my head, but one of them represented the earth, one of them represented the heavens. They enveloped two other gods. One of them represented the air, and the other one represented the dew. And then from there you have Osiris, which represented vegetation. His consort Isis represented fertile soil. There was another one that represented the dead, and she represented the desert's edge. And then there was Set, which was the evil one, which represented the desert. And so these gods represented the forces of nature that were all around the Egyptians. So when they all get swallowed up into one, they're saying that they all came from one singular force.
Right, right.
That's what the unified field theory of physics is saying.
Now, how does that apply to when somebody has passed on? we talk about heaven and hell. With that theory, what happens with the soul?
Well, to start with, heaven and hell are not locations. On the earth plane, they're the two extremes of the human condition.
Right.
And how you live your life depends on which one you bring into focus. Now, the fact that we're all made out of star stuff, we're all made up, it's on energy. Mm-hmm. If you actually look at an atom is not a particle. It is energy. And so energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It alters in form. So when you have a soul in a body, the body becomes the instrument through which that soul can work. We see through what we call the filters of the human senses. So we can only see, hear, or whatever, what the human senses allow us to see, hear, or whatever. Once we leave the body, the part that we call the soul is the part of the cosmic consciousness that is locked in the body, returns to the cosmic consciousness. So that soul is now departed, returns to the source from whence it came. And then it prepares for its next incarnation.
Wow, that's amazing when you think about it. So what made you want to write the book?
Well, my mother and father both believed in purgatory. Mm-hmm. They wanted me to be the perfect child so I wouldn't go there. And I couldn't live up to those expectations. So my childhood was, well, let's just say it sucked.
All right, let's put it bluntly.
And of course, when I went to Sunday school, failure wasn't an option. I didn't want to go to hell. We had a child next door that died of crib death, so I knew that, I could die at any time. So I constantly asked these questions. I mean, if I die tomorrow, I don't want to go to hell. And I don't have any assurance that I'm not going to. Mm-hmm. So that's why I was asking all the questions, and that's where Mother Superior told me you need to get along with God, and that's when I had that experience. And I said, well, how do I share this with people? I mean, I've had this experience. I need to share this with others. And so I started doing research to see if I could back it up. And that's when all these things started to come to light. I said, there's a lot to religion that religion doesn't teach you. It just teaches you the words. They don't understand the meanings behind them. And so to me, it helps religion come alive. Now, one of the problems I'm seeing in today's society is that we are going back to a dog-eat-dog society with this survival of the fittest. Mm-hmm. Well, religion tries to bring you to a higher plane. It tries to open your awareness up to the power within, the power of creation. That's what we're about. We are co-creators. And I wanted to share this with other people because I feel that without that spiritual, and it goes back to spiritual, not religion, it's spiritual. Most religions, the whole purpose of it was to help you have a spiritual experience. Mm-hmm. Eastern philosophy says it's not what we teach you, it's what you learn when you meditate on this and you have those spiritual experiences that awaken you. That becomes the basis of what you know. It's not what we told you, it's where it leads. And so to sit and go to church every Sunday and not understand why you're there and hoping that when you die you go to heaven. Mm-hmm. In Eastern philosophy, it says heaven isn't a place where you go. Heaven is a place that you're able to create once you understand that you are co-creator with the Creator. So God isn't creating heaven for us. In the Old Testament, it says God ended His work. And He did. And now we've got the ball in our court. What are we going to do with it? And that's what religion is supposed to be about. What are we going to do with the power that we have been given?
Hopefully a lot better than we have been lately.
Project Arrowhead. We are live with Major Roy Bork, stuck on Ray Bork. I'm a Bruins fan. Major Roy Bork. The merging of two worlds, the convergence of scientific and religious thought. And if you're just tuning in, you are missing a great show. A lot of good information from Roy. If you have any questions, the studio line is open, 860-626-5193. 860-626-5193. Again, the name of the book is The Merging of Two Worlds, the Convergence of Scientific and Religious Thought. Okay, we can continue now.
This is extremely interesting.
Roy, you have one chapter in the book that I looked at the title and I'm just curious on it. Demons of the Mind, the Effects of Abuse.
Yes.
What type of demons of the mind?
Demons are disturbances in the mental field, and they're usually caused by abuse. So what happens is that your outlook on life becomes tainted by the fact that love and affection and all the things that are meaningful are compromised. When somebody abuses you, it distorts your whole view, your whole mindset of what life is all about. The story is about my first wife. When I met my first wife, she was the first person that I could talk to that could talk back on the level that I understood spirit. It's what got us together. But then we ended up getting married.
Yep.
For about a year or so, everything was going beautiful. We had a lot of good conversation. And then she started exhibiting psychic ability. We used to play a card game called Rummy. And, of course, I would put some, we have our cards, and she kept telling me, put down that card, put down that card. And it's like, she never mentioned a card I didn't have in my hand. I said, all right, I got to figure this out. I figured we were playing with a marked deck. So I went out and I bought a brand new deck of cards. I brought it home, pulled the cards out of the deck, shuffled them under the table so she couldn't see the cards. I barely looked at them myself. Went to the first card and said, "What's this card?" And she says, she names it correctly.
Wow.
I go to the second card. "What's this card?" She names it correctly. Third card, she names it correctly. I went through 16 cards. She missed 2. I said, well, there's no sense in me going through the whole deck. So I put the deck on the table and I said, do you mind telling me how you're doing this? And after a brief pause, she said, they tell me. And I said, who's they? And she said, these people inside. And I says, what people inside? She says, I don't know how to explain it. There's these people inside and they tell me things and I just know. And I didn't know what to ask her after that.
I can understand why.
But anyways, after a while I started realizing that she had multiple personalities. And these multiple personalities started showing up. The one that could talk to me about spirit was, I don't remember the name of that one. I don't even know if I know that name. She could talk to me about, well, I have a background in nuclear physics, and she could talk about stuff that only a physicist should have known.
Yep.
And that was, can't remember the names now, but that had a personality. And so I was introduced to this. I realized, I'm way out of my field. She's involved with multiple personalities. She's becoming an alcoholic. She's getting involved in drugs. Her life is falling apart. I don't know how to deal with this.
Right.
So I prayed about it. And I was introduced to a Catholic charismatic deacon who had been involved with the church for 40 years. So after our meeting that night, she comes to me and she says, you need to come back. We need to talk. Promise me you'll come back. So I said, all right. So a couple of weeks later, I went over and talked to her. She said, your wife has multiple personalities. Well, it took me almost 2 years to figure that out. She knew it in one night. I says, I'm aware of at least 4 of them. She says, while she was here, I saw 7.
Wow.
This woman walked me through from that time till my wife would die, why God had put us together, what we meant to each other, and the fact that God was going to take her. He says, God is using you to bring her back. And when she's ready to accept him unconditionally, he's going to take her. And I says, when you say take her, do you mean like a life-transforming experience? She's going to give her life? No. She says, when he takes her, she will no longer be of this world. And she told me that 1.5 years before she died.
Wow.
So it's like I could see it coming. Now, I also had a Navy buddy.
Mm-hmm.
He was into occult studies. This was long before I had met Annette. He saw my first wife's death 3 years before I even knew she existed.
Wow.
And so between these two things, I said, all right, maybe prophecy does have something to it. But these two people helped me to understand why we were together. I learned from her things I could not learn in a book.
Right.
Because you have to be firsthand. I mean, you read about it, it's one thing. It's to be there. It's a totally different story.
Experiencing it. Yep.
And so that is what that chapter is all about. It's about what took place. Some of the events. And I mean, there are some things in there that kind of got a little scary. Because we were battling demons.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely seems that way.
Yeah.
So now, the paranormal, it seems to tie in directly with what you're saying here.
We were over at the Catholic Charismatic Deacon's home. I was.
Yep.
We were praying for my wife Annette. And while we were there, a picture of Jesus and a cross fell from the wall.
Wow.
There wasn't anything going on. It just fell to the floor. And the deacon goes into the other room. She comes back out, and she says, Satan don't like what we're doing, and he's mad. And she was mad as hell. And she started cussing Satan up one side and down the other, and I'm just looking at it like totally perplexed. What do you mean? She says if he's here, he's probably there too, meaning my house. So she says, I think you better go home and take a look at things. And she says, prepare yourself for what you might find. I says, all right. She says, you want my roommate to go with you? I says, well, under the circumstances, I think I do need some assistance right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we walked in the house and I came to the kitchen, what I saw, Annette had superficial cuts all over. She was covered in blood. There was blood all over the table. It was a mess. I said, I don't know what's going on here, but we're crossing boundaries that I don't understand. So, when you're talking paranormal, something happened there that day that
Yep.
I can't explain by the normal, by time and space.
Wow. So now you said one of her personalities could, tell the cards and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it seems like that would be more like a paranormal type thing than a personality.
It almost seemed like that personality was peering into my mind and then feeding her with the information.
Right.
That's what it felt like.
Wow, that is amazing. That's something else.
Now, the reason why I realized that I was way over my head is that there was another incident that occurred. I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and Annette is straddled over me, and she's got her hand around my neck. And I looked at her and I said, Annette, what are you doing? And she looked at me and she said, I'm not Annette. And she said it with a voice that could have come right out of The Exorcist. And I mean, I didn't know what to do at that moment. I mean, my first impression was I got to wake her out of this nightmare. But then I thought for a moment, wait a minute. I may never have this opportunity again. I appear to be in contact with one of those people inside. So I decided, okay, I'm going to see where this goes. So I said, if you're not Annette, who are you? She says, my name's Samantha. I'm Annette's protector. I says, where's Annette? She says, Annette is sleeping. Now, I knew Annette had been through a lot of abuse, so I was wondering if this personality was confusing who I was. So the next question I asked was, who am I? She says, you're Annette's husband. And she said it just like that, like in third person. I says, do you consider me a threat? She says, no, I believe you love Annette. I says, and why are you doing this? And suddenly her expression went from sinister to confused. She took her hands away from my neck. She turned over, went back to sleep. And then a moment later, Annette woke up. And she looks at me and she says, I just had a bad dream. And I said, so did I.
Yeah.
And she says, you had a bad dream too? And I says, who's Samantha? And she looks at me almost with this frightened look, and she says, she didn't hurt you, did she? And I says, no, but who is she? And she went back to, she says, I don't really know how to explain it. And I said, well, someday we're going to have to. But anyways, that's what started that ball rolling. So that's what I talk about demons. Her mind, she had been a victim of physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. She was raped when she was 9 years old.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about trauma. I mean, this girl was torn apart inside, and I could see it. But you can't see a torn apart mind. You can only see it in person's behavior.
Right.
We have a lot of people in the world today that are torn apart. And until you can go in the mind and see what's going in there, that's what spiritualism is about. It's about looking into the mind and understanding what drives people to do what they do. Because a lot of people, they're wounded spirits, but you can't tell by looking at them. And that's what needs to be healed.
Yeah, that is very true. Lots of people, you know, they do things that are off the wall or harmful or whatever, and people don't seem to understand that, you know, get into the part that what made them do this. Mm-hmm. You know, that makes a lot of sense.
You're seeing in a lot of TV programs where they're telling you what the background of the criminal was,
right,
to try to understand why do they think that way.
Criminal minds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Roy, where can people pick up your book?
It's available at Amazon.com. If you go to any bookstore, they can order it for you.
Could you hold up his book and show it on camera?
I can think about it.
Sorry, Roy, go ahead.
There you go.
Yeah, so Amazon.com, you can buy it. I have copies myself, but Amazon.com, you can order it. It's published by Westbow Press. So if you go to Westbow Press website, you can also get it there. And I have well, if you look that up, if you look The Merging of Two Worlds on the internet, you'll find it. And also I have a website, and you can order it directly from the website.
Definitely got to get that book, too. Excellent.
I have the website, scienceandreligionconverging.com. It's the name of the website.
Scienceandreligionconverging.com.
Yeah. If you go to their website, it gives you a synopsis of the book, and it will give you an opportunity to buy it, but it a lot of information on the book.
Very, very interesting.
And we'll put the link up.
Yes.
On both pages, both Arrowhead Paranormal or Project Arrowhead and United FM, and we'll also throw it up on Arrowhead Paranormal.
Most definitely.
That way, anybody that wants to get the book, okay. Sorry.
Do you have any calls in? Or?
No, when I was talking about that story earlier about the mad pooper, somebody just commented on it saying the pooper trader was caught. Wow.
Thank you for that update.
Oh, yeah.
So, Roy, anything else you'd like to add about the book? Or any of that in general?
It's divided into 12 chapters. Each chapter is a chapter in itself.
Uh-huh.
And so it's almost like reading 12 books at once.
Wow.
Okay.
They kind of fold in on each other, but like I say, each chapter covers an individual topic. So there's one that will go into the 3 basic energies, which make up the universe. Mm-hmm. And they're actually into various levels. I tried to keep it as simple as possible so that you didn't have to be a physicist to understand it. But there's a lot of information in there. It talks about good and evil in terms of the forces of nature and not some god that does this.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of time, I mean, when you crash into a tree, it's inertia that's killing you. It's not some god's hand came down and it's the forces of nature itself.
Or not the devil either.
Right. It's well, the devil,
Wow.
in Eastern philosophy, they have this image of the devil speaking in one hand, and the angel of God speaking in another.
Mm-hmm.
And when you read the energy chakras systems,
Mm-hmm.
the 3 lower energy chakras represent self, sex, and power. And it's all the biological forces. In other words, biological needs. Then you get the heart, which is the transitional point. And then you have purgation, which is dealing with faults. Transcendence, which is where you start having awakenings. And then Christ, which is universal love. And they said the lower subconscious is your carnal nature, and that's the devil speaking in one ear. And the upper subconscious is your super subconscious, which puts you in contact with the divine being, and that's the angel or the messenger of God speaking in the other. And that's where these characters come from. Angels and demons are all part of the human psyche. So, again, the demons are your carnal nature. I mean, when a man rapes a woman, it's his carnal nature ruling him. His spiritual nature would say, you can't do that to another person.
Right.
But his carnal nature can. And so that's the difference. So the devil is your carnal nature. The angel is your spiritual nature.
And that's where the evil comes in. You know, how they say these guys are like the most evil. This guy, he brutally murdered this guy or brutally murdered this woman. He's nothing but evil.
It's his animal nature.
Mm-hmm.
Because we evolved from an animal. Now, the lower part of the brain, the lower part of the brain stem of an ape and a human are almost identical. But we have a much larger expanded cerebral cortex, which is what gives us that advanced thought capacity.
Right.
So the animal part of us is still there. But now we have this spiritual side of us that says, what are we going to do with the world we've been given? So it's part of evolution. We came from the animal. We are now a human made in the image of God. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with that power? And that's really what religion was supposed to be about, is to help you achieve co-creation with God.
Well, hopefully we'll do something good with that. Because world's a little messed up.
Well, you know, I find an analogy to that, and that is this. If only 0.1% of 7 billion people were evil, you're still talking 7 million people.
Exactly.
And that's a lot of people.
That
but
is
it's
a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
But it's a very small percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you read the history books, we are more advanced than we were back then.
Mm.
We've outlawed torture.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple other things I was trying to remember. But that's one of the major ones. There's a lot of things that we no longer accept. We're trying to do away with the death penalty. So the idea is that we are trying to bring love into the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so we're getting there, but it's a slow process. But we are getting there. I mean, when you look at today's world and you look at the world 2,000 years ago, what they did back then, I mean, we are far advanced. But we're still working with that animal nature still comes in, and it goes back to survival of the fittest attitude.
Mm-hmm.
When you believe that you are part of the all and that death is an illusion, and actually it's the body that's more of an illusion, the spirit is what's real.
Right.
Death is an illusion. The death is never known to the one dying, it's only known to the observer. And when you die, it's like leaving an old car behind. You don't need it anymore. And when you see life that way, you realize there's a bigger picture here.
Much. Yeah.
But it's when people realize what they are capable of doing once they put their minds to it. I mean, look at our medical profession.
Mm.
We have an electrical grid that stretches clear across the United States. Transportation. We're into space exploration. This is what the mind can do when it puts its mind to it. It's like my father used to say, you can do anything if you know how.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
True.
All right, you've been listening to Major Ray. Oh, Ray, here we go again. Roy Bork.
Someday I'll get that right.
The merging of two worlds, the convergence of scientific and religious thought. Roy, thank you so much for being with us today. I know you got a meeting or something to go to at 5:30. We just wanted to say thank you.
Yes, thank you
that was
very
a
much.
Fantastic interview.
Roy,
Thank you for having me.
Roy is a major at the Thames River Squadron Civil Air Patrol in Groton, Connecticut. And he is an absolute godsend to the cadets.
And you're also a pilot, is that correct?
I'm a licensed pilot. I don't fly for the Civil Air Patrol. I'm a search and rescue ground team leader. So I assist the air crews bring us into a crash site, and then our job is to bring the emergency crews in. So we lend. We're like a first responder.
Oh, nice.
I have gone flying with
impressive.
Roy a few times. Hey, Roy, before you go, you want to tell him the story about the 45-degree turn I was making?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I hadn't stopped Keith, he would have put this plane that's not designed for acrobatics into a barrel roll.
Why am I not surprised?
Shouldn't there be a sign like
When he gets in the plane, and the first question he asks is, "What does this button do?" You know you don't want him in there.
Roy, do you think in an emergency situation now? Tell him the good. Okay, you guys are like, oh, a 45-degree turn to flip it upside down. Let me tell you something. I could turn that thing upside down and hold it.
Yeah, well, he does that.
He can hold it all the way to the
He
ground.
does it on Flight Simulator, but it's just this plane was not designed to do it. That was the only concern.
Yeah.
It's like this is a.
It's not a video game, Keith.
Xbox doesn't count.
This is a Piper Warrior. It's not designed for steep banks. We don't want the wings broken off.
But I mean, as far as like my flying in general, and you had me maintaining what was that? I was holding
The first time we were in the air, I said, "Can you hold this straight and level?" And he was watching the instruments and holding the plane straight and level. First time we ever flew. I said, "You sure you've never been in a plane before?" And I have a flight simulator. He says, "Well, you've been trained well. You can handle the plane. You understand the instruments. You know what you're looking at."
Roy tricked you, though. It was on autopilot.
Jerks.
But I tell you, I really appreciate that search and rescue.
Absolutely.
I'm a firefighter, EMT, and that's just my thing. I love being able to help people. Love doing search and rescue, and God bless you.
And once again, thank you for all your service in all your different areas. Thank you too, Jim, for your service.
Thank you.
Well, I have to praise the Navy gave me one great education, so
Yeah,
they gave me
I'll
back
say.
what I
Crash course.
Absolutely.
Sure.
yeah. So it was a sacrifice on my part, but well worth it.
Give this guy a 9-volt battery, some wire, and some nails, and you'll vanish.
Wow.
Regular
what
MacGyver.
I was going to say, what you're telling me is we have MacGyver on the show.
Literally.
The real life MacGyver.
Wow. Very cool.
All right, so he's got a meeting to go, so you guys get up and do your mid-show dance.
Really?
Well,
Yeah.
again, thank
Nobody's
you.
supposed to know about that.
Again, thank you for having me.
Very nice to
thank
have you.
you.
Thank you,
Major Roy Bork.
sir.
We're going to go ahead and let him slide out of here.
Can you get there?
Absolutely.
Oh, there goes the whole stage.
Thank you very much, sir.
You have everything,
It
Ray?
was a pleasure.
You guys hold the fort. I'm going to walk him out.
Yeah, we always hold the fort.
Lock the door.
What is with him?
Here comes the cat.
Wow, that was a fun interview.
Amazing. That was
And
one
it
of our
was,
best.
It's great to have somebody in studio. And
Yeah.
I was watching
Yep. Pleasant
The,
surprise, too.
the United FM radio listeners, and
We're up to 2 now.
not on the radio. In the radio portion, we've got a couple hundred.
Nice.
So I just want to thank everybody for listening. If you're watching, thank you for watching. And I know there's been, I looked at several different ones, and a couple are watching this video, a couple are watching this video.
I got them all over the place, sir.
Yeah, but thank you all for the support, and I hope you really enjoyed that interview with Major Roy Bork.
I know we did.
Yeah, it was. And it's nice to have somebody in the studio.
Yeah, it is.
Instead of on the phone, you can actually,
It is.
you can make eye contact with them.
We have to organize, where
that?
you guys need to organize guest.
Who's that?
Who's that? Where, huh?
Who's that?
Who's that? I thought you locked the door.
Me.
I tried.
You didn't get there quick enough. Oh, he's got a key. That's right.
So I want to know exactly what. No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't want to know what
The
drives.
attention span of a fly.
I don't want to know what drives somebody to poop on the sidewalk, on the road, anywhere. Glenn, that's not a lightsaber. My God, these kids. It was so quiet when Glenn was gone.
That's why the ratings went down.
They actually went up.
Not from what I saw.
Oh, yeah. They definitely went up.
So he actually described a demonic possession. I mean,
Well,
this
to
this
an
guy.
extent.
Not really, but
Well, I
It's
mean,
more,
this guy.
it's more demons of the mind than a.
Right, but he's got no
demon
reason
spirit.
to tell stories.
No,
He's
no.
100% genuine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, see, there again, when people used to believe somebody was possessed or something to that fact, it turned out that they were wrong, and it turned out to be something else, like multiple personalities or some kind of, other mental illness or something like that. So that is what he's saying is exactly what that is. Because, I mean, even though she spoke in these, weird voices or sinister acts, stuff like that, it was actually another personality. So she wasn't possessed per se, but it's everybody has demons, which means your bad memories, your tragic events, and so on and so forth. So that was excellent. Please, everybody, if you can, really go out and buy his book because it is extremely interesting.
Yeah, Glenn, make sure you share this to your page and your
done.
Personal page and Arrowhead. And
Already done.
he put a lot of work into that book.
Yeah, I put it on right from the very beginning.
Actually, I transferred. He had that book on an old 386 computer when he was writing it.
They still make those?
Yeah, well, this is years ago, and we had to set up a modem connection, a dial-up modem connection between two computers to transfer it over to another computer. It was like crazy.
Wow.
So there's been some developments with Tony Spera and the Warren Museum.
Okay.
Thanks to a neighbor who called the town zoning department and complained, they were not zoned for commercial use. Which I guess the
Oh, not this crap again.
So the museum, I guess, is being considered commercial use. So they were sent a cease and desist order and can no longer operate from that location.
I thought they were closed down.
But they still can't have everything.
Oh.
It's considered commercial. Especially with the movies and everything. And so because some neighbor wanted to be a douchebag.
It's considered communist Connecticut.
Yep.
There you go.
So the good news is the Warren Museum will open as soon as they can find a suitable commercial location. As far as moving all the stuff from
that's going to be
the Warren's Museum, that's going to be a cautious, timely project.
This is going to be not open for a while.
I don't think people understand the gravity and the amount of stuff that's in the Warren's Museum. And the fact that they have to move it is... somebody wanted to be a douche.
You know what they should do with the Annabelle doll right now?
Bring it over here.
No, they should grab the doll and tell the neighbor, say, "Listen, this is an angry doll, and what you do is you yell and say horrible things to it and threaten it, and all your problems will go away."
Yeah.
Make sure to throw it around.
Now, let's not forget, folks, that the artifacts in this museum are all haunted. I mean, there's not one item in that doesn't have some kind of connection to it. So this is a very long and tedious process into moving these things. It may sound simple, throw them all in a box, move it in a U-Haul. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of precautions that have to be put in place, and it's a very, very long process.
Leave it to Connecticut to mess something good up. They should be grandfathered in. This is like complete nonsense.
Yeah.
We posted a video back not too long ago that showed the steps that had to be gone through to remove Annabelle from one case and put into her new permanent case.
And that was a process in itself.
Now,
just for that.
Imagine 500 more Annabelles having to go through the same process and be moved from one location to another.
Well, we could always UPS them.
Yeah.
Scare the hell out of the drivers, that's for sure.
All of a sudden, multiple UPS planes go down.
Yeah. Man. No, this is going to... first of all, just to find a place that will house all these things, is going to be a job. And then, like I said, moving it is a whole other ballgame.
Yeah.
So I think the state's just mad because they can't tax you to look at the doll.
Well, more so was the neighbor.
Well, yeah.
I don't think really anybody else cared but
how is it illegal? How is it illegal to have people over checking out a doll? Well,
if you charge to do that, then it's considered.
They don't
business.
charge.
I thought they did.
I don't think they charge to do it.
Oh.
As far as
they need to take right now.
Well, now they might not.
They need to take the Constitution state off the license plates and put the communist state.
There you go.
Effective
We're heading
immediately.
Oh, it's not the state, it's the town.
What town?
there. Monroe.
Oh, go figure. Northwest Connecticut.
You know, I used to have a store in Newtown, like right over the Monroe line. And you wouldn't believe the things the hoops they made me jump through for that small store. And I couldn't put a sign out by the road. It had to be 25 feet from the road. And I put a sign on the front of my building, and they were even complaining about it. So, you know what? I measured it. It's exactly 25 feet. So they went out. The cops were at my place every other day complaining about something. I'm really surprised that the Warrens didn't get more complaints than they did.
Well, I do have some breaking news for people here in New London, Waterford, Groton.
Is it an update on the pooper?
Tomorrow on Valentine's Day, February 14th, Millstone Environmental Lab personnel are planning a training event to practice the safe firing of emergency handheld and aerial signal flares that have passed their expiration date. Signal flares are a part of the safety equipment maintained on board Dominion Energy vessels in case of a boating emergency and are required by the United States Coast Guard. The drill will be conducted at the southern end of Millstone Point between 10 a.m. and noon. Local law enforcement and the U.S. Coast Guard have also been notified. So once again, that will be tomorrow, February 14th, between the hours of 10 a.m. and noon, and they will practice the safe firing of emergency handheld and aerial signal flares that have passed their expiration date. So there is no need to panic.
And I also heard that they're giving every couple away a small vial of nuclear waste.
I think that's
Valentine's Day.
I think that's what you leave in the toilet every time.
Right?
That would be you, Keith.
Yeah.
You and those burritos.
The last time you used our bathroom, the paint was peeling.
That wasn't me.
So that's cool. So we need to go to Millstone and
Go get a vial of that stuff.
actually we can sit at the boat launch and watch. How romantic.
It'd be like a little fire.
It's not going to be fireworks. It's just going to be
Signal flares.
Yeah, signal flares, safety flares.
So no ooh ah. None of those.
Nope.
Ah.
Nope.
All right. Keith, news out there.
So Valentine's Day, you guys gonna be shooting off your flares? It's funny how you guys are laughing harder about it. Wah, wah.
Oh boy. Did we say he was fired yet?
I said flares.
Okay.
What's Jim doing over there?
Playing with his flare.
Oh, this is out of control. Roy leaves and the whole show goes.
No, not the whole show. Just 2 out of 3.
Yes. You and Keith.
No, today's show was absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. And thank you for that surprise, Keith. That was very nice.
If your brains are leaking out of your ears, there's toilet paper right in the bathroom.
Oh, great. Thanks for letting the world know. All right.
Yeah, what he was some of the stuff he talks about is real deep, and it's
Very, yes. Very
can
interesting.
It can be intimidating if you start to not understand, because I mean he's
Well, you lower life forms might not get it, but I got it. That was a joke, son. Zoom right over that.
Been watching any of the Olympics?
No, have not. Watched part of the opening ceremony. I'm waiting for curling. I don't know if it came out yet.
Yeah, it's been on.
Yeah, I missed it.
Yeah, it's been on. Oh, it's still going.
Curling?
Yeah,
Okay, I gotta watch that.
I'm waiting for the men's hockey to start up. The women's hockey is
Hockey
already in in full effect. I was watching some of the downhill yesterday, and
Was the Russian team playing?
no,
Not in the hockey? I thought the hockey team was.
The Ruskies.
no,
No?
no,
Huh.
nope. The Russians were banned.
But I thought they allowed like 47 of them in.
Mm,
I could have swore it was the hockey team.
I don't think so. Not that I'm aware of.
I don't know.
I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure there's none of them there. Hey,
Yeah.
Hi.
Hey.
Fat Tuesday's coming up, isn't it?
Isn't that today?
What's Fat Tuesday?
Mardi Gras.
Oh, yeah, all right.
I thought that's today.
Fat Tuesday is the Tuesday before Ash Wednesday before Lent.
Isn't tomorrow Ash Wednesday?
Well, then, if tomorrow's Ash Wednesday, today's Fat Tuesday.
Whoa. So, okay, I have an excuse. I didn't get any sleep last night.
So what's your excuse for what?
I was doing work in here.
Yeah.
I'm always doing work in here. How do you think all this stuff continues to work? What do you think? It just puts itself together? Computers fix themselves?
Yes, artificial intelligence, like Roy was talking about.
Wow,
Yeah,
March is coming up.
Could you check him for artificial unintelligence?
Mad
Where's that
Monster
bat?
Party's coming up.
I got it, and you know where it's going, Keith?
Hey, what happened with the gopher? What's that little rodent that tells you if spring's coming early?
6 more weeks of winter. And a fire alarm.
Yep.
Yep.
Evacuate. Evacuate.
Oh, that Jim's left. I don't know.
It's got to be the hallway.
Yeah. Must have been that fart you let out there.
Was that behind you guys?
No.
No, it was
When
coming
you
from the hallway.
when you open the
the
door,
door.
Yeah.
You better go check.
Hurry up and lock the door.
It's called somebody's being an idiot.
Okay.
It's my phone.
Oh, it's your phone?
My phone. It's my phone. When we get a call at the fire
It sounded
department,
like
that's
it
what
was
goes
out
off.
there. Wow. That sounded like it's like a ventriloquist.
Hit him with that bat, okay? Just do it. Hit him with the bat. I'm freaking out whether, to go into the basement and grab the garden hose and go put out whatever apartment's on fire.
Yeah, because that's smart to do.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I did it. I did. When I lived in Torrington, my landlord had a dryer in the basement. The dryer caught on fire.
Did you pee on it?
And I said, there's no freaking way I'm losing all my equipment. So I went and grabbed the garden hose outside and went into the basement. I, of course, shut off the power to the dryer.
Very good. I was going to say
I hit the main breaker, and I laid flat on the ground, and I hosed that. I popped it open. I hosed it down. Flames come flying out. I hosed that thing down.
He peed on it.
Next thing I know, now listen, I've never been picked up by a firefighter before. Listen, those guys are no joke. They scooped me up like a rag doll and carried me out of there. I didn't know that I could be moved. I'm 250-pound, guys, and this medium-sized pencil thin guy comes and swipes me up off the floor and has me out of there in 2 seconds. I don't know what kind of training they get for picking up a human being, but it happened faster than I could blink my eye. But I put out the fire.
Well, see, that's why we have to respect our firefighters and police officers, because that's their job. That's
And then
what
the
they
chief
do.
is yelling, what the fudge are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I put out the fire. Why would you lay on the ground with a hose and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, well, because there's air underground.
Yeah, you got below the smoke.
What would possess you to do such a thing? I'm like, I didn't want to lose all my equipment. So, yeah.
He should have thanked you.
So after a half an hour after he calmed down, he said, well, what you did was incredibly stupid, but absolutely amazing. But don't do it again.
Well, we're glad you're still here with us, Keith.
Yeah.
This weekend. I lied. Next weekend. No, this weekend.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it's this week.
This
I think, yeah.
What's up, madam?
There it is.
Oh,
All
I
right.
turned the wrong mic down. I'm sorry.
February 16th through the 18th in Hilton, Charlotte, North Carolina. Hilton, Charlotte University Place in Charlotte, North Carolina. Had Monster Party. And man, do we have some sweet guests. WWE superstar, Road Warrior Animal from Aliens and the Terminator, Michael Biehn. From the show Nashville and Nightmare on Elm Street, Ronnie Blakely. Director of Leatherface, Jeff Burr. The first person to play Michael Myers, the Shape, Nick Castle. Eugene Clark from Land of the Dead. Legendary co-founder of KISS, Mr. Peter Criss.
Wow.
From Child's Play 2 in Beverly Hills 90210, Christine Elise. The one, the only, Freddy Krueger himself, Mr. Robert England.
Wow.
WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley.
Mick Foley.
From Aliens and Near Dark, Jeanette Goldstein. From Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and Nightmare on Elm Street 5, Danny Hassel. I love this one. From Aliens, Near Dark, Pumpkinhead, and multiple other movies, Mr. Lance Hendrickson.
Nice.
On Saturday only, from the movie See No Evil and former WWE champion Kane. From Freddy vs. Jason, Ken Kurtzinger, sorry. Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and Wes Craven's A New Nightmare, Miss Tuesday Night. The man who plays Leatherface, R.A. Mihailoff. From the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, Nubbins will be there.
Nubbins.
Sleepaway Camp, Miss Felissa Rose. The man who's done more for horror, second to only, I would say, George Romero, Mr. Tom Savini. Also, from See No Evil 2, American Mary, and Elevator, the Soska sisters. Soska sister. How do you pronounce it? Soska or Saska?
Looks like Saska.
Well, anyway, the Soska sisters will be there. Jen and Sylvia. Alex Vincent. I've met Alex. Great guy.
Child's Play.
He is from the original Child's Play. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Nightmare on Elm Street 5.
It was Andy, right?
Lisa Wilcox. Yeah, he was Andy.
Yep.
And from the new Nightmare on Elm Street, Miss Amanda Weiss. Plus. There will be another person added.
A mystery guest.
Unfortunately, Sid Haig and Catherine Isabel had to cancel due to professional obligations. It's always a great time seeing Sid. Sid is one of the nicest guys you ever want to meet. So that's it. That's this weekend in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you're down that way, be sure to stop in. Stop by the Scares That Care booth and tell everybody we sent you. For general admission, it is $25 in advance, $30 at the door. For Friday and Sunday, advance tickets for Saturday are $35 or $40 at the door. Advanced 3-day tickets are $60 or $70 at the door. or the RIP package. I like that instead of the VIP, the RIP. And what RIP stands for is really intense partier. And let me tell you, the RIP package is amazing. Includes a 3-day pass with early bat access to all 3 days, access to the exclusive RIP guest lounge and the after party events, reserved seating at the panels and screenings, priority line access, mystery swag bag, limited edition Mad Monster RIP shirt, limited edition Mad Monster event poster. There are only 138 RIP tickets available for sale. Those are $199 and are good for all 3 days.
Actually, that's pretty good for
Yeah,
that.
absolutely, definitely worth the price.
Now just to get down to Charlotte.
Nah, it's not that bad. And like I said, don't forget to stop by the Scares That Care booth. Where, we'll also have some good swag.
And mention Jim's name, and all the prices will be double.
Yeah. And you'll be helping a good cause.
Absolutely.
Also, this Friday is the Scares That Care $5 donation day. What you do is you go to www.scarethatcare.org. You can donate on there. Donate via PayPal. Or, you can use a credit card or PayPal, whichever you prefer. And for every $5 that you donate, you're entered into a random drawing for some fantastic prizes.
So please, everybody, take the chance if you can and donate. It's for a very worthwhile cause.
Even if you can donate just $5. We have a lot of people that only donate $5. And it's it all goes straight to the families.
Excellent cause.
I agree. And we have our convention down at the end of July, beginning of August this year.
Which I would be stowed away in Jim's trunk.
That's good because my car's staying here. Come back and I'll smell something dead in the back. Couldn't figure out what it is. Oh, Glenn tried stowing
Doesn't that
away.
happen every time you take your shoes off anyhow?
Anyway.
You got that out, would you?
It happens when I take off my shoes.
We
Things
know.
just die for a 5-mile radius.
We know.
I like that. I can't repeat that on the show, but that's good.
What?
I can't repeat that on the show, but it's good.
What?
Well, if I could repeat it, then I tell you what.
Well, inquiring minds want to know.
Okay, has anybody seen the new movie Winchester yet?
No.
Neither have I.
It's not a movie. It's a TV show, isn't it?
No, it's in the movies.
Movie?
Yeah. About the Winchester house.
Yeah. You know what I saw? I saw an hour and 48 minutes of my time just get wasted and freaking go, bye-bye.
Time better being spent. Could have watched paint dry.
Oh, my God. I watched the movie It Comes at Night.
And it went.
And it came and it went. And I was sitting here at the end of the movie like, what the hell? What did I just watch?
Wow.
I just... It's one of those movies that... I don't know. It just picks you up, plops you in the middle of a plot line. It doesn't tell you why this is happening or why that is happening, and you're just basically left on your own to figure it out. And then just when you think you got your things figured out, the movie ends, and you're like, what the hell did I just watch? And don't laugh because you watched it and you said the same damn
same
thing.
I couldn't figure shit out. Excuse me.
Now, on the other hand, what else did I watch? Oh, I watched the movie The Tourist.
I don't believe I saw that.
That is a good movie with Jackie Chan.
Ah.
Really good movie. His daughter gets killed
Yep.
when the IRA blows up a bank. And he goes after them. And it's probably one of the most sadistic I've ever seen Jackie Chan. It was really good.
He is good still.
What else? You seen anything else?
I've seen several, but I can never remember the titles.
Then they can't be that good.
No, some were. I just can't remember the titles offhand. I have that problem. I can tell you everything in the movie, but I can't remember the title.
Wow.
By the way, folks, February 15th, 2 days from today, solar eclipse we have coming. Did
Solar eclipse.
I thought we had it already.
No, it says
During
right
the
here.
supermoon.
It says right here, it has a
There is
supermoon.
a
Ella.
solar eclipse.
Solar eclipse,
in
February
2
15th.
days.
15th?
Yep,
Oh. What happened on February 11th?
Not a damn thing.
nothing.
Yeah, I know.
And then in March, just a quick one here, March 2nd and 31st is going to be a blue moon.
Blue moon.
Once every blue moon. But there's going to be twice, so 2 blue moons. So that's the next that's the next astronomical phenomenon that is happening within the next 2 months.
So if we're getting 2 blue moons, can we change the saying to
Once in every 2 blue moons?
once in every 2 blue moons?
Yeah, we could do that.
This could just go south all of a sudden.
So don't forget, solar eclipse, February 15th.
I'll tell you what. Speaking of going south, this is the funniest video I've watched. You know how the TSA can? Well, let's put it this: they can be pricks.
Yeah.
Well,
That's an understatement.
these guys are going to get on a plane. Well, the dad hid something in his son's carry-on.
Uh-oh.
So as the kid's sitting there getting ready, his stuff's going through the X-ray machine. Well, they're sitting there and they're videotaping it. They're recording it on their phone. So he's sitting there, and the TSA agent calls him over and says, "Well, we got to go through your bag. There's something in there that doesn't look like it should be in there." So they pull the kid over, and the TSA agent, with her gloves on, she starts going through the kid's bag. I say kid, he's probably 20-something years old. She pulls out a giant pink dildo.
You're not supposed to say that on the air.
His parents planted it in there to set him up when TSA came there. They recorded the whole thing. The look on his face when the TSA agent pulled it out of his bag
Was it a female?
Yes. Yes. Oh, it was actually. You know what? I'm going to share
Did
it.
she use it for a cavity search later?
No, she was. Oh, she was great. Hey, she played right along.
Was
with
she
it.
good looking?
What difference does that make?
What are we talking about here?
What the hell difference does that make?
You got a hot TSA agent holding an 8-inch dildo
Have
in
you
the
ever
air.
seen a hot TSA agent? And if so, what in the hell airport were you in?
They're not supermodels,
What? All female TSA agents are ugly as hell?
No, they're mostly men, and
He doesn't fly much, huh?
yeah.
Well, I heard you had fantasies about female TSA agents. I don't know.
Where does he come up with this stuff?
I don't know. It's a psychic reading. I have cards over here. I'm just
No, it doesn't work with that.
No, it doesn't work on that side.
wrong side.
Damn. Hey, did you see this crash the other day? It started as a chase.
Oh, in Norwich, yeah.
Yeah. Look
Knocked out power to 900 customers.
Look at that. There's nothing
pole right out.
left of that car.
Wow.
It's literally hanging. See how that's up in the air right there? It's hanging on the guardrail.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The criminals are getting out of control around here.
Criminals are getting out of control everywhere.
Yeah, this is minor compared to some places.
Trying to find the one video. I wanted to share it. Actually, I can't play it on here because it's very, very, very loaded with foul language. But it just shows you how what some of these, whether it's law enforcement, bail enforcement, anybody in that aspect of life has to deal with. And you wonder why they're moody when they come home or moody when they're at work. Because if you had to deal with this type of people every day, then I guess I'd be a little moody too.
You are.
Bite me, Glenn. You're walking home.
I'll stow away in a trunk.
Oh, great. If I had a trunk.
Yeah, that's right. You don't have a trunk.
Wow. Well, next week I think we're gonna try to get Dustin Warburton on. Hopefully he's available.
Is that Screech?
No.
Just kidding.
Dustin, I apologize for that. And if not, well, we'll see
who pops up.
Who we can get on. So, oh wow! Breaking news! Breaking news!
Breaking news!
Crews are working to recover a body from a pond in Griswold.
Oh, must obviously went through the ice.
There is no ice.
Oh, then it was harder than
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe back a few months ago. What you know what? Wasn't there a search for a snowmobiler that went through the ice in Griswold?
That's right.
All right, I'm wondering if that might be it.
That's right. I guess the ice finally melted and they're able to get in there.
And then one last thing before we sign off, I would like to salute the Norwich Police Department. They made an arrest the other day. 2 people and seized over 650 bags of fentanyl.
Wow.
So that's a big dent from the local distribution.
What is fentanyl?
Stronger than heroin.
Oh.
Fentanyl it's stronger than morphine. Can only be given in the hospital. 1 milligram more than you're supposed to get could be fatal.
The question is, how did they get their hands on all that?
Same way they get their hands on everything else.
Yep.
But you just can't walk into
Comes from Mexico.
Oh, so it's something that doesn't have to be produced from the pharmacy? You can just get it made?
No, they're getting it from Colombia, Mexico. It's coming over the border with everything else.
It's coming over the northern border also from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you to the Norwich Police. That's probably a couple hundred less deaths in this state.
Well, 650 bags. So let's look at that as they saved 650 people one way or another.
Yep.
But this spring and summer, we'll have another 500 ETOHs all over New London.
Yeah, unfortunately, the battle continues.
Oh, yeah. Every summer, ETOH here, ETOH there. I mean, Lawrence Memorial Hospital has become Club ETOH.
Yeah, that's everywhere around here.
Yeah.
So it's just...
New England itself is...
It's got to be a sad existence. I don't understand addiction. It's never been an issue for me. And I've been through some crappy chapters in life, but I just don't get it. I just have a hard time understanding it.
Yeah, it's it affects everybody. Doesn't matter what walk of life you're from.
Nope. Addiction knows no color, no race, no creed, no religion.
Yeah, it's
one of the demons out there.
It is. It's not a good thing.
Nope.
I had I don't know if I told you this, guys, a long time ago. I know you're trying to close up the show. I had a friend that had a drinking problem, and he started coming around to see the light of day, and it killed him. He stopped drinking, and it killed him.
What did he die of?
I guess he had a heart attack.
Wow.
They weaned him off the alcohol, and he turned around and had a heart attack. I don't get it. Must have been too long, too late.
Yeah, most likely. That's sorry to hear about that.
Yeah, it was. He was even drunk. He was a nice guy. He wasn't. It's amazing how he's able to compose. He was like a functioning drunk or drinker or whatever. Yeah. He could still walk and tie his shoes, but he was always drunk.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there like that, and that's a killer, just like the others, just like the other drugs out there. Alcohol's a drug, also.
Yep. All right, brothers and sisters, it's that time again.
All right, kiddies.
Really? You sound like a creepy old bastard. You want some candy? It's time for us to hit the bricks.
Now it's time to say goodbye.
Do you see what I had to deal with? And wasn't it so nice the last 2 weeks? We had a good thing going.
Nah, you guys missed
nice.
me. You missed me.
Just kidding. All right. So until next week, y'all be good. And take care of each other. And we'll see you next week.
God bless.